Welcome, survivors, burnout community, and those just interested. It's Kelly Bubolz, owner, trainer, and burnout prevention mentor at KB Training Connections. Burnout is not taboo. It's our reality in this fast-paced society. But we are not going to let it drive the narrative to our stories. We're going to do something about it. So let's dig in. Well, thanks, Chad, for being with us today. So me and Chad have actually been connected for probably like 20 years. He actually used to be in the service of hiring interns out of my college and placing them into companies. This was before the internet age of job postings. And so we've stayed connected over the years, but really where we've been connecting now is what the workforce needs, what employers need to supply such workforce. And so over the years, I've been growing as a leader in human resources. He has been growing a leader in the recruitment field and what labor is looking for. And the cool thing about it is through our two journeys, we have found similarities in not just what employers are looking for, but what the workforce is looking for. And it's not in your regular mold. It's not in what we're talking about today. So that's really what we're going to break down. And I'm going to throw it over to Chad for a little bit because the dynamic discussions we've had on this is going to get you thinking out of the box.
Good. Well, thank you, Kelly. I'm super excited to be here as well. And as Kelly mentioned, my name is Chad Kopitske. I'm the owner of Next Gen Advantage. I'm not going to get into a lot of details regarding that stuff. I'll let you do your own creeping on me. But just a little bit of background. I've spent most of my career in talent management. Most of that's been talent acquisition. And I've really done everything from internships and building feeder systems into organizations all the way up to senior level executive search and really anything in between. The interesting thing is that I've done that third party, meaning that I have hiring managers, business owners, HR on one side, and talent and job seekers on the other. And I've worked really hard to be a trusted resource. And when that happens, you get dumped on, and you get to hear the compliments and the complaints about what's working, what's not. And what I've done is I've tried to take a lot of that information and help my business differentiate itself, but then also drive that into organizations to help them. And so the unique thing that Kelly and I are going to try to bring is that we are this third party piece, right? We're boots on the ground. And I think because we're not necessarily attached to an organization, we get to have different conversations. And so we really want to bring a different perspective to you today. And challenge you, maybe help find those gaps as well as those opportunities to help you and your organization and you professionally as well. So anyway, with all that said, enough about me. I want to try to create the environment, right? The lay the groundwork for this conversation today. So to kind of give you an idea, when we take a look at the talent landscape, I look at it as the talent life cycle. And that talent life cycle has 5 phases. The first phase is the attraction phase. The second phase is the recruitment phase. The third is onboarding. The fourth is retention. And then the fifth is exit. Where Kelly and I, the webinar today and our conversation is going to take place is in the fourth category, in that phase. And so everything that we talk about, and that's about retention, right? All of the things that you need to do when it comes to retaining your talent needs to be built around these 4 things. So all your activities, all of your programs, those types of things need to have some form of these 4 pieces that we're going to talk about today. Now, before we get there, I want to jump ahead into the talent life cycle and jump into the phase 2, which is the recruitment phase, and show you a gap that starts to create the issues that we have in the retention phase. And so before I get started, I'm going to ask you all a question. And if you were forced to leave your job, right, what would be the top 3 to 5 things that you would need to have to get into your sweet spot? And now some of you might be saying, well, Chad, I'm in my sweet spot. This is the best job ever. Okay, well, fine. Then what are the top 3 to 5 things that you need to have or that are keeping you in your role right now? Okay, so as you're writing that down, I'm going to keep moving. So as we walk into this recruitment process, I've tried to simplify things as much as I possibly could. What we're trying to do in that recruitment phase is answer 2 questions. So all of the questions that you ask of candidates and all of the candidates' questions back to you boil back to these two questions that we're trying to answer. The first one is, can they do the job? Or can I do the job, depending on what side of the table you're sitting on? The second question is, do I like you? Now, my experience has been most organizations live on this side of, can you do the job, right? That's where we've gotten the job descriptions. We have 25, 30 different boxes that we have to check. And our job is to check those boxes, right? And I get that. But if you truly think about this, if I find somebody that checks all the boxes, it reduces the risk off of me and puts it on the candidate, right? It puts it on the talent. And if something goes wrong, right, that Kelly's the candidate and she doesn't work out, well, Kelly, that's your problem. That's not mine, because now I can take this box checking back to my boss or to HR and say, I found the perfect candidate. There must have been something wrong, right? And so that's where organizations live. Now, I have yet, in 2 decades of doing this, I have yet to run across any talent that has ever sat across the table from me and said, hey, Chad, one of my top 3 to 5 things is I need to be able to do the job. See, nobody says that. Now, listen, I get it, right? I put my black hat on and I poke away, right? Because they still need to be able to do the job. Now, I've said, well, hold on a sec, you have to do the job yet. And what comes, I've heard 3 things. Number one, Chad, I wouldn't have applied for the job if I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. I'm not going to set myself up for failure in that environment. Second, Chad, I know that I don't check a bunch of the boxes like maybe industry experience or certifications, et cetera, education, whatever, right? I'm willing to go pick that up if I'm given the opportunity. Nobody is born with industry experience. So how am I supposed to get it if I can't even get in the door? The third thing is, you know what? I've done a similar type of role to what's being posted and what I'm applying to. And you know what? They're missing a bunch of experiences and skill sets that they're not even getting a chance to have the conversation about that I could bring to the table, because I'm already being screened out because I don't check those boxes. Mm-hmm. Now, let's see if I'm any good at what I've done over these years, right? So I want you to take a look at your list. And I'm going to see if I can check off a bunch of those things that are on that list. So what you're looking for is that you're looking for variety, challenges, growth. You want a great culture. You want to work a part of a great team. You want transparent leadership. You want to be appreciated. You want to add value. You want flexibility. You want to have a voice. You want to have some impact. You want to be developed, and you would like somebody to be able to provide you a clear vision. Now, I'm hoping that I've checked off a bunch of those things in some way, shape, or form. But I'm also willing to bet that if you take a look at your list and you start taking a dive into those pieces, none of those things, or very few of those things, have anything to do with doing the job. And so we have organizations over here checking the boxes to see if you can do the job, and talent is over on the other side saying, you know what, these are the things that are important, and a majority of the things that are important have nothing to do with the job. And so what I found is that the organizations that can move over from checking the boxes to having that conversation about, do I like you? Those are the organizations that are becoming the employer of choice and filling the gap that we have, that we're ultimately going to talk about today. And because it's just a different conversation. It's no longer about, well, we have to figure out if that candidate's right for us, but now we also have to figure out if we're right for the candidate. And that's just a different conversation, right? So there's your first gap. The second gap, real quickly, is because I've done a lot of career coaching, my job is to move somebody from running from something to running to something. Now, the crazy thing is that person that's running from something, that list is the same list that they're running to. The only difference is that there's usually a lack of something that they're running from. So I'll give you an example. I can't get promoted. I'm looking to move into a leadership role and nobody's leaving. So there's no growth. There's no promotion. So I want that. And so, but the same list is, there's just a lack of something that people are running from. Again, that list is what I constantly hear from talent that they're looking for, which is some of the 4 things that we're going to talk about today. So with that said, hopefully that paints the groundwork or the foundation for where we're going to have this conversation today, as well as maybe showing you some gaps in the system completely. So with that said, Kelly and I have also had a couple conversations about the struggles that HR has. A majority of the people that registered are in the HR field. And so those two things, two obstacles that we've taken into consideration is, Chad, lack of resources. I don't have money to implement all these awesome programs to retain people. That's the first one. The second, I don't have time, right? And so we've taken that into consideration. So we're going to try to be creative in lowering that obstacle for you, or both of those obstacles, to address, hey, I don't have resources and I don't have a lot of time because I've been given everything, right? Benefits and payroll and making everybody happy. And oh, by the way, I have to go out and find the best talent, and then I have to try to retain them all and build programs and activities. Your time is limited in that environment. So we have that in the back of our heads, and we've also seen that as we've walked into organizations as well to try to help them. So we're going to address that. So first one, what we'll do is I'll mention it and I'll turn it over to Kelly and I'll interject as we go as well. But so the first one is really about growth. Constantly hear that, whether that comes in a promotion, additional leadership skills, being challenged, and maybe even adding variety. So all of that stuff sort of funnels into that bucket. So I'll turn it over to Kelly.
Yeah, and really why we connected on this topic is me and Chad were just discussing some challenges I'm having in HR as our company grows and we're onboarding. And he said he was talking about some of the things that talent is looking for that he's seen in the labor field. And I said, Chad, these are the same factors that are causing burnout. This checklist that is not being met isn't just about connecting and aligning with the right company in the right position. When you don't meet these needs, it's feeding survivorship mode. It's feeding the basic human needs that I'm unsafe. I don't want to grow here. I am not going to stay here. I'll make some money and I'll leave. And so when I hear those comments of you can't find loyal employees anymore, you're not hitting the boxes. You're not hitting the basic human needs that they're looking for. And why I say that as an HR professional is we're working so hard at things that aren't working and getting the same outcomes. And maybe we need to be replacing some of that time with things that are working, that are getting these outcomes, meeting those checklists. And when me and Chad talked about it, it was creative, it's different, but it was super achievable. And this is someone who's coming from manufacturing, low budgets, no people, HR person of one. And so if you want to do something, you got to do it yourself. And it was very achievable in my mind. So that's why we wanted to put on this webinar and go through the four. And the first one he said is growth. And so we think Manny, right? And Chad, you did it already. If I want to get promoted, I need to lead people and no one's leaving. But we need to think outside that scope. There are so many things in your organization that they can lead outside of actual human beings. We all know that some of our high performers are not people, right? They don't have those soft skills. They love mentorship and training, but they don't like those hardcore conversations. They don't like performance management. They avoid conflict. They like to do the fun things, right? What they're good at, and that's okay. They should lead programs. They should be product experts. They should be leading customer initiatives. They should be leading company strategic initiatives. There's so many other factors that they can lead and you can develop them in that doesn't involve performance management, that human conflict that some people just aren't cut out for no matter how much you train. So the reason why this overlapped into my sector of burnout prevention was when you're in survivorship mode, you go into zombie mode pretty fast in the workforce because day after day, it's the same thing. Day after day, I'm doing the same stuff. Q1, I do this. Q2, I do that. Oh, look, Q4, benefits, right? Most HR people hate Q4 or their end of their fiscal year because of benefits. I'm one of those. And what we need to do to get out of this zombie mode is stop acting dead. We need proof of progress somewhere else. Now, does that mean we have to get our day-to-day done? Yes. But could we do it different? Could we automate it? Could we gain efficiencies? And what this does is it moves you from victim mode of I have to do this stuff because it's part of my job into a creator mode. And this is literally just playing with a psychological brain triangle called the drama triangle, and you probably heard it from from Ken Blanchard, and it's literally moving them from the victim to the creator. So we all know the victim, right? The woe is me, and I have to do this, and leave me alone, it's month end. When you move into the creator, which again, growth in something, it doesn't have to be people. So I automated my systems. I went to this conference and found out different software. I found out a different way that we can do it for operation excellence, and I'm going to implement it this month. Do you see how ambitious and productive and innovative it just got versus I have to do this, and I do it every month over and over again? Very tedious, very zombie mode work. And the beautiful thing is you work around this triangle in this growth mode is the creator becomes the coach. And when the coach gets really good with training other people and people in their team, they get empowered to be the challenger within the company. And I say that in a very positive manner. They're pushing the company forward. They're supporting their team to take that next step. Now, where they started was that victim, and they just need that space of growth. Now, what's interesting, especially in like the production world where I came from manufacturing, you're stuck in cinder blocks all day. You can't even get out. You pay for memberships for things you never go to. You pay for conferences that maybe you'll make to or not. And that's where all the ideas are happening. So when Chad talks about growth, I want to tell you that it's minimal costs. So in HR, we don't have much budget, but conference attendance, flights to these trade shows, minimal cost. Because Gallup study has shown that 33% of someone's salary is your turnover cost. So these people in these zombie modes that are just cycling through day after day, and eventually they're like, I'm going to leave for better opportunities. I'm going to leave because I'm not getting promoted here. I'm not being challenged. You just lost 33% of their salary in turnover costs. That $500 membership was maybe worth it. That maybe half-day trade show that they go to, may be worth it, because you're moving them from this victim, this zombie mode, into the creator, which then will be your coach, which then will be your challenger. So when you look at when top talent leaves, especially when your top talent leaves, you're not just losing those leaders of products and processes, and they know the place front to back. You're leaving on the table those people that can handle complex challenges in your organization, and that takes time to create, right? There's no amount of classes that you can whip people through to learn those complex situations and how to navigate across your organization, those complex challenges. So those are the people that I hope that you are spending a lot of time on the growth factor. Do you want to go to trade shows, conferences? Do you need a mentorship? Do you need a focus group? In HR, we have like SHRM and community groups. There's community groups for all different professions. Are they part of those groups? Get them out to those groups. So although we see it as a distraction and a time management issue, when you're spending your time in busy work and this zombie mode day after day, the time is moving slow. The time is being wasted. So when you get people out to these half day or full day or conferences and they come back all energized, you're gaining time. And so we need to rethink that narrative that things cost money. We didn't even talk about schools, but even the tech colleges, minimal expense. And the tech colleges do a great job of not only industry leaders, so you're getting like real feedback and practical knowledge, but they're flexible in classes and labs. I'm from like the trades industry. That is super important because you don't have to miss all of your workday. Maybe you just miss half of a Wednesday and you're getting all this industry, new technology, and again, moving out of the zombie mode. So the act of starting this is more important than the perfection of it. And I think in HR, we want programs, right? But everyone, like Chad was saying, has their own checklist. So if they want to be a manager of projects, that's a different journey than a person that wants to manage people. If they want to manage strategic initiatives, again, that's a different avenue to go than other people. So the act of starting these conversations and finding different avenues and memberships and getting people out is going to be more important than spending 3 months on a formal program, presenting it up, getting it denied, re-presenting it up. You wasted a year and probably some of your top talent is gone. So just remember the act of starting when people are in survivorship mode is more important than perfection. And now, Chad, what other kind of ideas have come out of your discussions with some of the labor workforce when they're looking for growth? What type of activities are they looking for?
Again, I think the world of work is changing, and so I think it doesn't necessarily always need promotion, right? And I'll give you an example that'll lead me to sort of two ideas that I'll throw to all of you. So I ran across a leader. She was a CEO, and she said, "We've done an awesome job of retaining. We built a great culture," and she was really proud of it. But and the great culture meant that they were retaining their mid to upper level folks, and that meant there was no growth for the entry level folks, to shoot for, because nobody was leaving. And so she just said, I constantly am turning over my high performing people that we identify. She's like, what do I do? Now I said a crazy thing and said, well, you help them leave. And she's like, what? And I got blasted for it. But I would rather create a brand ambassador in that environment to help that person. But I threw out some ideas, and I'll throw some ideas here too. That growth doesn't always need to come by being promoted. My definition of growth is stepping outside that comfort zone. And the more people that you can get to step outside that comfort zone, that means growth, right? That means that they're being challenged, that you're using them. And if your organization is growing, that's one of my criteria that I look for in an organization when I walk in. Are you growing? Because my opinion is, if the organization's growing and expanding, or at least putting those steps in place, like you said, Kelly, just start that process. At least now that creates opportunities for the people inside to grow as well, right? So if you can kind of take a look, well, you're just going to continue doing the same things that you've always done. Well, you might get run over, right? You might not be in existence, and you're probably losing talent because the high performers are walking in, or the individuals that value that growth want to grow. And so as we talked, there's a couple things. I actually like micro learning labs, meaning let's create an environment. What are the big corporate problems that we have here inside our organization? Let's bring a team of people cross functionally, and let's work on that, away from doing our jobs. Again, stepping outside that comfort zone. Well, this is my job. Well, now I'm being asked to go do something else, to work on a corporate problem, to help resolve stuff with other people. Might be an opportunity. The other thing is maybe a job rotational program, right? Where all you need is two people that are interested in saying, yeah, I want to learn something else. And if you're already lean and you don't necessarily have that succession planning backup, if somebody were to leave and now you're in scramble mode, this is a way that you can share those resources and have those individuals step outside their boxes as well. So again, just two quick little ideas that I don't think cost a lot of money. It's just about maybe getting some people on board, that we're identifying those that want to grow and step outside that. And if you have a group, my opinion is, if you have a group of, no, this is my job and this is all I'm going to ever do, and I don't want to grow, they become your anchors in moving your business forward. And so you have to work hard to get those folks to step outside that comfort zone and that sweet spot, because that means change, right? And we all know that the world of work is changing faster and quicker. So
Yeah, and I put some of these actions to practice last year, and we actually got some really good, high qualified talent onboarded, not because of comp. And I wanted to point that out, because this is the trades, and so comp is pretty high on people's lists when I have these interviews. And I talked about all the development programs that we have in place. Our reputation is high on development, and we got both candidates, even though we were lower in comp and lower in benefits. That's how much people value this. They want to grow, they want to do well. Isn't that the talent we're looking for? Is the ones that want to continually learn, right, in our industries, push our agendas to make us better, and do a great job while doing the other two. That's the people you want. So the only way to get those people is to present an environment in which that they can thrive. So that one kind of moves me then to our next topic, which is a voice and impact. So I can feel it already. I don't know about you, but sometimes when I go on webinars, I just get like a giant list, and then it either ends up in my desk drawer for another rainy day, or I feel super overwhelmed. And this is where I'm going to empower you to pass it on. This information isn't yours to just sit with. It is for your organization to focus on. And an interesting comment that someone made after a workshop, but one of their leadership team members was suggesting like a burnout webinar series for their program. And the person turned to him and said, if we're going to do a webinar and not in person, it's not that big of a deal to this company. If you want it to be a focus, make it a focus. And I was shocked because I actually do a lot of webinar trainings as well as in person, but they were right. If you're going to take people out of the workforce or out of their production for an hour, 2 hours, half days, whatever the programs are, you are showing commitment to their growth, right? You're showing that I want you to have a voice. I want you to learn something. I want you to bring it back. We're making an investment in you. You make an investment with us. It's almost like a non-verbal contract. And when you do webinars, you know what happens. People are working while they're on it. The ones that don't have their cameras on, you're like, are you there? Are you even listening? So that comment sits with me. And that was probably like 2 years ago that I heard that comment, because what we focus on grows, right? So what story are you telling your talent? What story are you telling your candidates on where you're spending your time? And so this voice and impact is huge because it's actually in the top 6 burnout research contributors from employers. So top 6, 50 years of research, that lack of control contributes to burnout. And so certainly in larger organizations, you do have to have some parameters or you're never going to move forward because there's too many voices, too many hands in the pot. But when people have an opportunity to make that impact and make choices within their workday, within their week, you're giving back control of their day. You're giving back priorities and passions to them that they signed up for. And so when you're in survivorship mode and you feel out of control, like you have no, I don't know, you have no impact, anything you do, why try? It's feeding your survivorship mode. That's why we're having issues in our schools and school institutions, right? A lot of this power has been taken away from teachers and people of that organization that, why try at this point? I'm just getting more. I can't do anything about it. So zombie mode, day after day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday. So do you see how we're feeding that zombie mode? Again, time wasters. So we're trying to gain time. We're trying to gain money. It's because we're spending it in the wrong places. So, making that opportunity to make choices within parameters, right? Again, getting people cycling in and out of strategic teams and projects. And I love that like focus group mini labs that you're talking about, learning from each other. It doesn't have to be more work for HR. There's smart people in your organization that can teach people, even mini 1-hour sessions. So you got an Excel whiz, 1-hour session, lunch and learns. And give them time to develop that curriculum and say, instead of saying, hey, can you also do this? No, we're going to commit to this. I want you to take 2 hours before these webinars to prep your curriculum. And I want to see homework from people. I want you to follow up with people. I want you to take the time and we're going to commit your time to this development of our workforce. Focus, right? Focus on what matters. Imagine the efficiencies that are gained in that. 3 hours of work, maybe one with the whole crew, and the amount of work that's spread across departments, all those efficiencies that are gained. So the only way this works, let me back up one more, is trust. So there's organizations that I go into for training development, and I can tell you probably in the first 15 minutes of conversation, the trust level within this company. The people that aren't talking, you can tell why. The people that are watching around the room because they're afraid to speak up, move the wrong way, talk about anything, you can tell low trust. So we have to shift some subjects during these workshops towards even just building that. And trust really comes down to competency, listening to people, again, giving that time for communication instead of just rolling things out, lack of control, again, feeding that. So what we're trying to do is avoid learned helplessness. So if you're growing people, I hope you're giving them an avenue to apply such tools and skill sets. Otherwise, why try? If you are sending people out to conferences and trade shows, are you giving them an active opportunity to share with the organization what they learn and what other companies are doing within the industry? If not, why try? That voice and impact is feeding their burnout. And organizations are making time for that, making mini labs, making space for them to share their ideas and innovations. They're going to go there. To tell you the truth, I would go there. Doesn't that sound more exciting than Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Oh, look, I'll go to this conference and then make up all my work when I get back. And it didn't matter that I went to this conference. So again, You want to get rid of that why try mentality by giving them a voice and impact, and it doesn't have to take more time. You are redirecting time towards efficiencies and productivity and moving your organization forward without using the same people over and over again. You're using teams instead of these people that we're kind of creating into robots. So I work a lot with organizations moving from micromanagement to coaching. And one of those is the voice and the impact. So when Chad said that, I said, oh boy, that's in the top 6 of burnout contributors to employers. But again, we're so focused on production. And are they or aren't they completing the employer checklist that we're forgetting there's a very powerful checklist on their side that if you feed that need, it brings you more than you even imagined on your original checklist. What have you seen, Chad, in the labor market where people have gravitated towards employers where you were like slam dunk? That seemed like minimal effort.
Yeah. Well, and I think you brought up a couple foundational pieces, right? So I really like idea incubators, right? Where
Incubator.
it's just, well, it's just a way to generate ideas from people, right? I look at, as I walk into an organization, I look at everybody in the organization. If I'm their leader, right? I look at them as diamonds in the coal mine. And my job as the leader is to get the coal off of them so that their ideas can shine.
Yeah.
Everybody that's working on a machine or on a, in the finance world or whatever, that we all have ideas that we'd like to share to improve our organization or to improve our job, to make it more efficient, to save us money, right? And those are the types of people that if you don't give them an opportunity to have a voice, they're going to go find that someplace else. And so why not create that internally to say, hey, we're gonna have a brainstorming session about just we're gonna get rid of all the boxes and we're just gonna throw stuff on the wall and let's have some fun and let's see if we can maybe find a new market or a product or a service or and take our organization to a different level. And but that I'd welcome everybody that's involved, right? So I think that's an easy one. And then just even employer or employee led initiatives, right? To sort of bring people around a cause or an issue or, volunteering into the community to have a say, right? I think is extremely important. And again, it goes back to just think about yourself if you were walked into a job and nobody relied on you to have a voice. What does that feel like? Right. And I think it just helps to be able to have that opportunity to be heard and to be listened to and to be able to share those ideas. And so I think the organizations that you see, becoming adaptable and embracing change and challenging the status quo and sort of rising to growth are those organizations that allow their people to share those ideas and to have an impact on their jobs as well as the organization and even the customers that they help.
Yeah. And I gotta tell a really impactful story from years ago. We had a machine group and there was a lot of turnover. It was like the average operator was 90 days. And it took more than 90 days to get them productive. So we're just losing money on productivity there. We can't get quality product out. I came in at it because we were having a lot of safety issues. And so I observed them for, I don't know, half hour. And I was just thinking to myself, I would hate doing this job. And I love manufacturing. I'm your Discovery Channel kid, how it's made, high tech, high skilled, love the labor workforce. Blue collar and skilled trades is like my jam in the trenches. And I wouldn't do this job. So then I backed up and I said, we got to reverse brainstorm because we've tried things and it's the same people trying to brainstorm, right? And that's where Chad's getting at is we need some fresh ideas. We need some fresh eyes in it. So we got a different group to observe them and they're like, I wouldn't do this job either. And so we got this whole machine group, 1 hour, right? And that costs money because the machines aren't running. And we got them in a cross shift 1 hour brainstorm session where we said, I want you to list out everything that makes this job horrible. And it couldn't be event session. It had to be constructive, right? So that we could actually make actions out of it. It wasn't just going to be like he does this and that person does that. So we had to guide the conversation. 68 items, Chad, came out of this list. And I'm typing on the spreadsheet as fast as possible. I would say 85% of them were maintenance work orders or they just needed tools for the job. Mm. I mean, we fixed that within days. Work orders, which we had apprentices, that was a great opportunity for them to dig in. Tools for the job, basic tools for the job, minimal costs again. Now, were there some bigger capital improvements and things like that that came out of it? Yes. But the other thing was flow of information between shifts. They were kind of a feeder department, so they wanted to start a little bit earlier than the other departments because they came in just stressed out from the get-go. And if they started a half hour earlier before the other machine groups, they could get set up and feed them right away.
Sure.
Just all these ideas that you don't see because you do the same thing day in and day out. And so getting these fresh ideas, these brainstorm sessions, thinking like crazy kids, like if we would make the perfect machine group, what would it look like? And then all these ideas came out and they were simple. And I was just shocked. I was shocked by the 85% of brokenness in this machine group that we set them up to fail from the beginning. Now I want you to fast forward like 6 months, and there was zero turnover in that group. And we owned, aside from the maintenance crew, we owned nothing. That machine group set up their own board. They proactively were checking communication. Are they gaining efficiencies by starting early? They took hold of this so hardcore that they didn't want to leave because they're in this middle of this initiative. They're seeing improvement. They're, the day doesn't suck so much. And it was really powerful because I took on this project thinking, man, more work. But they were so empowered through that brainstorming process that all the ideas started flowing. They started talking about owners. They started talking about due dates on their own. And all we did was provide 1 hour of space for them to brainstorm. So again, are every project like that? Probably not. But is it worth it? Absolutely. I mean, you talk about 33% of salaries being the turnover costs, and every 90 days we were turning over production while we're not actually getting production. Could you imagine the cost savings if I would have actually tracked that?
Yeah. Well, and I think just from my experience, when you invite somebody to the table, right, to have a voice, you start getting buy-in, right? Just like you were saying, that was a perfect example of that, where I'm gonna have a say in this, and because I have a say in it, it's harder for me to leave because there's this community that you've basically built because people are listening, you're listening, you're sharing ideas, and so I think that's just one of the pieces that, as you were telling that story, that popped off. I'm like, she got buy-in because, again, I was able to share my voice and watch maybe one of my ideas run, and I don't want to necessarily go because of that. So, and if it's implemented, guess what? I'm the owner now of that as well. So, I love that story.
Yeah, and again, all we did was shift cost and time into a more efficient manner. So did it cost us time to have that meeting? Yes. Did it cost us time for them to have those shift change meetings, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but every shift they were meeting about their projects? Yes. But imagine what time we were losing, not only in turnover and training, but also all those broken gadgets and widgets and buttons. The amount of time that they're sitting there with a hammer or wrench, just like on the machine, poor quality product, all the time wasted there. Again, we should have done better data tracking, but it was a phenomenal experience, and just giving them a voice, like you said, transfer of ownership. They felt empowered. They were excited to come in every day. Growth, right? Getting exposed to different areas of the business outside of their machine group. So let's move to the third one. The third one, it kind of goes into that invested in. So when Chad talked about invested in, do you have genuine support? And this is kind of where we're kind of piggybacking off of the first two is, you say you want to do this. You said that you're going to pay for this. What are you doing with it? And that's where the action comes in. Like Chad said, if you're going to invite people to the table, what action is going to be provided after? What commitment is the company going to make to say this is important to us? I go into a lot of workshops and I feel like I'm a checklist on their wellness program. They're not going to do anything with this. And you can tell from the audience how much they're engaged, how much they're just like, yep, another person, that was great. I wish we could do something with it. I wish someone would listen. And then there's organizations that are like, hey guys, let's take the 15 minutes before we even go back and let's start talking about what we're doing in the next 24 hours, what we're doing in the next 4 weeks. Again, 15 minutes, shifting of time for more productivity. So we like to focus on how much labor we have and how much we spend on labor, but I want you to shift your scope to how much we spend on payroll and benefits. It's the top two most biggest expenses of a company, and we don't reinvest in our payroll and benefits. So what I'm talking about is the overall business strategy is a finance function of people. And when you invest in people, the numbers might be slow, but you're gaining that productivity. You're gaining that financial impact back. And Chad, I don't know if you want to speak on your conversation with one of your colleagues about HR people-centric position versus a finance people-centric position, and it really brought to light why this is a struggling category, why invested in, it seems simple, but why it's a struggling category between labor and organizations.
Yeah, well, I think I've always viewed talent as an investment, right? And some people say, well, talent's an asset. And I think the struggle is HR typically will report up into your financial piece, which is all about the dollars. And so that puts a crimp on maybe HR and what we're able to do to invest in people. And I think the growth, some people will say, well, growth and investing in is the same thing. Well, no, I don't look at it that way. I look at the growth being, oh, we're growing, we need you to go over here and do this job over here now. Well, that's growth, that's stepped outside. But like you were saying, that investment piece is really about investing in people. Like, oh, you know what, we just promoted you. Great, good luck. I wish you well. Well, you know what? No, we should probably get you some leadership experience and or leadership training and how to manage, maybe even manage the people that your former peers. That can be a difficult piece, right? So investing in that individual to get better as they're growing. And I always go back to just if somebody were to come to you, your boss or your supervisor, your leader comes to you and says, we're going to give you a bunch of money to go pick up some additional skill sets to basically invest in you. Does your loyalty go up, stay the same, or go down? I think most people would say, boy, wow, I feel pretty good about this, right? And so even just that little bit of investment starts to increase. And so but I think there is a huge gap there from looking at the numbers, and I've been working really hard to try to get the talent, right, not necessarily off the P&L and onto the balance sheet, because those individuals are extremely important to our organization, and it's a massive cycle that takes place, right? Well, if we move money over here, then we might lose money over here, but ultimately, if we're investing in the people, I think in the long run, we'll pick up the benefits, and it makes our job as HR and hiring managers a lot easier because people recognize that, hey, this is an organization that values their people. That's where I want to go. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on sort of being invested in.
Well, and a couple things on that. Again, I want to go back and we're going to give you some material to help with your ammunition of getting budgets and things like that, because I've been there too, where it's always the talk, but then something breaks or something else needs focus or we need to update software, and now the training budget trickles down. So again, 33% of salary is your turnover cost. So when we don't want to invest in emerging leaders before they lead people, right? De-stressing them, giving them the tools to start practicing them, promote them. We are investing in them. We are checking their lists. When I get invited into burnout workshops, unfortunately, because they're burnt out. Are we proactively investing in them and then giving them time to practice these tools? And again, I've been with clients that say, every month we're going to meet and we're going to check in on our action plans. And we're going to do it, maybe a webinar so everyone can attend, whether they're remote or not. And they keep the pulse on it. Because again, you can invest in someone on the front end, you can give them some money, like Chad said, but what is the action? Are they seeing progress? Let's go back to the burnout, survivorship mode. Are they seeing progress? Or is it, wow, let's just send people through this program and then everything stays the same? So you're making that investment, give them the space to show you what such investment did. Give them that voice. Do you see how these are all interconnecting almost interchangeably by the shift of time and cost? So I work often with organizations that do have small budgets. They're way past the point of training. And they think, why don't you come in once for 2 hours and that should satisfy us? And I'm like, oh boy, that that may work if you invest in it after. And I'll ask that question, what is the investment after? And it doesn't have to be with me. It could be with other people. It could be just their time, giving them that time to really plan that focus group time. And there's a lot of companies that just forget about that point. They write the check and they call it done. This is humans and human behavior. So let them practice, let them play, let them spend time on it. Again, investing in people and you're going to get it back. Just like Chad said, the other two investments that I wanted to shine light on that I think that we discount sometimes is work-life balance. So I'm a working parent. I'm a single parent with 3 kids. Remote work is insanely trusting of me. It shows me that they know I'll get my work done, that I do quality work when I'm home. So even though it gives me that flexibility of work-life balance and being able to be with my kids when they're sick or like adjust when we have kid chaos and activities, what it's really showing me is you have invested trust in me to do work in a non-visual manner, and I'm getting it done. That is huge in my book because I don't have to defend myself. People know where I'm at. They know I'm going to get my stuff done. I don't have all that extra stress of I have to email everyone and tell them that my kid is sick and that I'm going to get it done by noon so that they know I'm online and that I'm sending emails every 5 minutes so people know that I'm active. No, I'm hyper focused working on projects. So that work life is really building trust within your teams and within your organization, showing we trust you to get the work done. You have the skill sets and competency to get the work done. How do you want to do it? Oh, look, voice and impact. Oh, look, personal and professional growth. Again, interconnecting all 3 of these things that we've talked about. And then benefits I wanted to talk about because I've been to so many different organizations, nonprofit, hospitality, manufacturing, insurance, corporate. I've seen a lot of really cool benefits that, again, if you had a committee, I'm not putting more work on you, HR people. If you had a committee around some of these non-ancillary benefits, like things you don't have to be with your health broker on, you don't have to sign contracts with, community service events, they're offsite, they're on-site, there's projects that you can do throughout the month, like writing cards to the military, collecting donations for homeless shelters. There's all sorts of cool stuff within our community. Holistic coverage. There's holistic small businesses within every community that are doing amazing things with workforce, small groups that are interested and ready and willing. Can we shift some of our gym memberships towards those? Not only are you supporting your community, but you're changing a lifestyle towards a healthy workforce and showing like, hey, if that's your route, we support it. Again, have some parameters, but again, you're giving them that voice, the impact. Childcare is extremely difficult. And what we found out during COVID, we had obviously machine operators, they couldn't be at home and remote work. We found that there was a lot of stay-at-home parents that were actually looking for some kids to fill some spots and things like that. So we started a childcare hub. So if you had a stay-at-home parent and they're looking for 1 or 2 kids, we just had a list on our intranet. And when they were full, they would just email someone and we would update the list. But our new hires loved it. Our retention and the childcare issues keeping people from work went down because we basically said, don't stress about this. Here's a list if you want at-home daycare of people and you're supporting their household income. It's trustworthy. It's vetted out by other people who have their kids there. It was phenomenal. And they were right inside our walls. All right. So again, thinking outside the box instead of, oh, we can't get certain people in because they have daycare issues. Okay, provide them with some options. And then the other thing is, again, third-party trainers. In HR, we are complex creatures. We are savior complex, do it ourselves type people. And we have to recognize that, again, cost and time has been the theme of this, shifting that. So how much time and how much cost is it costing you, your health, your mental health, because you won't go third party? Me and Chad, when we talk about our services and people's kind of pushback sometimes on our services, and I said, I wonder how much time has been wasted so far instead of just hiring the expert to come in, right? I would do certain trainings as an HR professional. I could have hired someone and it would have took less time and probably less money based on, wages and my own mental health and things that I had to put off to create such training. So keep in mind these third-party resources because they are in your back door. They are the experts, so you don't have to waste time and energy, and they're going to get stuff done. That's what they're hired for. That's the outcome they're looking for. So keep in mind these third-party trainers, both, like I said, your local colleges, resources like me and Chad, the experts in the field. Stop overworking ourselves when there are resources available. And that goes with all disciplines too. There's contractors and fractional work that we're going to get to in just a short bit here, in which you can utilize instead of spinning your wheels every day underwater, wondering when you're going to breathe for some air. Hire some services. That brings us to our fourth one. And I'm really going to hand this one over to Chad because he has some phenomenal partnerships. And we're going to be talking about the fourth sweet spot, which is flexibility.
This is the first three have all of them are called drivers, right? These are things that are driving people to go there. I think the flexibility piece is now becoming a satisfier for the talent, right? And again, I think what we did, prior to the pandemic, I was telling organizations just start creating some flexibility, like one day a week or one day every 2 weeks. Allow your talent to work remotely. And I got a lot of no, why would we do that, right? They're already coming in. And the reason being is because the younger generations were demanding it, right? They figured out that I could work anywhere on any device at any point, anytime, right? And so that was being driven from them. Now we hit the pandemic. The pandemic tells everybody they have to stay home, right? And we gave people a taste of what that was like. And now, guess what? We're telling them to get back in the office, and the individuals like Kelly are like, no, thanks, I'm good, right? This works for me, me and my family, right? Because it allows some flexibility. And we all know that work and life are actually integrated, right? So when we have a bad day at home, it comes into work and vice versa, right? And so I have a couple interesting partnerships that I formed. One of them is I become a fractional executive. The fractional piece is basically looking at part-time executives, right, to bring in to come in and do your strategy piece regarding that. The other is a 4-day work week. And so now I've already started sharing this with some folks around the area, and they're like, no, there's no way we could ever do that because we run 5 days. No, these organizations are doing this. And what's happening is it's creating it's sort of being driven into to being invested in, right? So, and I've been sharing this with folks of, okay, role's the same, everything's the same, but you instead of working 40 hours, you come in to work 32. Where would you go, right? Well, 32. Well, why? Well, boy, they must be in tune with how, if they've leaned out things, they become extremely efficient. They must value their people in giving them an extra whole day, right? Mm-hmm. And again, it ties into the wellness piece, which is huge, and a lot of the things that you talked about, Kelly. But again, it's about creating that flexibility for people. And what I learned a long time ago, that varies from person to person. Kelly mentioned the internship program that I oversaw. And I started tapping into this 18 years ago or 20 years ago and said, we want to be flexible and we want to cater, not necessarily cater to you. So I asked 2 interns, I said, I'll give you some flexibility. What does that look like? One of them said, I would like to go out on that park bench outside when it's in the summer and work out there. I found that I could tap into the internet via wireless, right? I'm like, okay, great, fine. The other one said, I want to bring in my pet ferrets. Now, that was a different environment, but you know what? That's what their flexibility, what I learned real quick is that flexibility varies across those individuals. I think the organizations that become flexible, that can adapt to that change, adapt to the workspace, it opens up to all kinds of possibilities in addressing the previous 3 things that we talked about. It allows people to grow. It allows people to manage their life. I just saw on the top 25 list, and I don't know if it was on LinkedIn or Indeed or where it was, but 6 or 7 of them have something to do with wellness, mental health, psychiatry, right? And so I think this is a huge topic. And I think creating some flexibility and really empowering people to pick and choose that flexibility and what that looks like, I think is extremely important because I'm constantly hearing it. Chad, I'm not driving up to Green Bay. I'm already working remote in Appleton, and why should I have to drive up there in person when I'm already doing the same job right here? I hear that on a regular basis. Now, I'm a person that believes in the benefits of getting face to face and interacting and sort of that hybrid model because I think we're driven to that community. But when it comes down to doing the tactical pieces of my job, let me go, let me manage that. And so I think there's some opportunities for organizations to throw out and roll out what that might look like.
Yeah, and I love that it's per the individual, and I've seen that too, is it really depends on their lifestyle. You know, there's people that love to go fishing when no one else is on the water. Hey, upcoming week, pick your day that you're off and you can work Saturday, or focusing on the outcomes that you need from that person. I think that's what's coming out of the fractional work is we're finding you don't need to fill 40 hours, you need to fill a function. How much time does that function take? And it's interesting because we hired our first fractional engineer, and he comes in and he just does a certain amount of work for certain projects. He only attends certain meetings, and he is semi-retired. He loves it. He is 90% billable. He's our most productive person because all the noise is gone. Now I work part-time, and so I have limited hours every week to work on HR functions. So I do not work on non-value added work. It has really cleared my mind on what moves the needle, what needs to be done, what needs to be a focus this week. Everything else is noise. Now picture someone in 40 hours. I'll fill that 40 hours. Is it valuable work? Not all of it, right? We're filling 40 hours. So the 4-day work week squishes that to have an organization really focus on what matters, what is driving productivity. Everything else is noise. So you talk about death by meeting, that goes away because you only have 4 days. You talked about a few organizations that might not have that flexibility. They have 5 days of customer service, or maybe like I'm from the machine center kind of industry. Create pods of people and let them figure out their schedule. We want to fit them in our box when really we just need 24/7 coverage. We'll let this group figure it out. If they can't figure it out, then you create the schedule, right?
Yep.
But watching 4 or 5 people create their own schedule, one, they're gonna show up because they want that control. Two, you just empowered them to create whatever route they need to get our outcome. And then 3, we don't own it. We don't own more work. We have all these people underneath these leadership teams, underneath HR support, and we keep dictating to them when there's so many great ideas out there. And that goes back to that voice and impact. Is there is different ways, we just aren't giving a platform to explore it. So I think flexibility can get a bad name for those few bad workers. I think we need to be careful about grads that don't have good remote setups or that career structure yet. But again, it's a training program for them to figure out how much work they can produce and what they're really good at versus being at home trying to like figure out what to do in their new function. You want to make sure you set it up right. And I think that's where the focus should be, is if we want flexibility for our workforce, what things do we have to set up to make sure that's successful, and what freedoms do we give them so that they can make the right choices for their fit. Otherwise, it is a mismatch, like you said, Chad. There is people that love in office. There's people that love that structure of 8 to 5, and then I turn off. Yep. Feed that need. Then there's people like me that I love to go remote because I can hyper focus. And then when I'm in the office, I can support employees, I can chit chat, I can do all my meetings that take too long. And then I go back home and I hyper focus again and get my work done. And that has been a huge stress reliever. Instead of my list just like adding and adding, I whip it out. So
well, and I think just if you don't mind, I'm gonna I think the struggle really is moving people or moving organizations from a presence model to a performance model, right? Because it was all about, I need you in here so that I can see that you're working. right? I would say the younger generations brought this cool thing called technology into the workspace, and now we can't tell whether somebody's sending out a text message to their mom and dad or a buddy or connecting, with a business contact, right? And so that work-life integration has sort of messed up that presence model, and we need to move from that presence model to a performance model. What are the deliverables, right? And this leads into like organizations that are doing unlimited PTO. I've mentioned that to organizations. They're like, somebody's going to take advantage of that. Yep, you're right. They do. And then they're dealt with. But those organizations understand that, hey, there's a job here to do. There's deliverables. We need you to perform. If you want to take 2-3 week vacations, go right ahead and do that. But we're going to hold your feet to the fire. Understand that there's expectations. With flexibility, there's also accountability, right? And so I think that moving from that mindset of, people need to be here in order to do their job. Now, if you're seeing numbers that are the productivity is dropping, then we need to have a conversation about it. To say, hey, we're going to allow you the flexibility to work from home, but we also need to hold you accountable in that process. And I think that's just a conversation along with what does that flexibility mean?
Right. And we haven't even mentioned the flexibility of just within the work-life balance of we build our life around work, regardless of what people tell me and how they've realigned their lives. You have to be at work at a certain time. You have to sign on at a certain time. You have to get things done by a due date. But when you bring this flexibility, you can go on a family vacation. If you want to go 2 days early because you're going to save a couple $100 of plane tickets, great, sign on from the hotel. Or can you work more hours within your labor laws of your state, that type of thing. So I love the presence versus performance model because it really gets you to focus on, I hired you at this salary to complete this function. If you want to do it more efficient, awesome. You gained more time back in your week. If you don't want to do it efficient, you're probably going to work a lot more hours than what your salary is worth. So it's going to, like you said, it's going to weed out these poor performers saying, I don't think I'm getting paid enough. Well, maybe we should explore efficiencies and again, give them all the support tools and training that they need to be successful. But if they're not meeting those marks, then they're not cut out for the 4-day work week. They're not cut out for the flexibility. But guess who is? The high performers, and you're rewarding them. You're rewarding them with flexibility. You're rewarding them with, if you want to create efficiencies and automation, great, you gained, more time back. But guess what? Your salary is not going down. And yeah, I love that presence versus performance and focusing on the performance model, because that's basically fractional work. You're getting paid for projects.
Yeah.
We went through growth, we went through voice and impact, we went through investing in, we went through flexibility. That's the sweet spot. I'm in the burnout prevention, training and development world. Chad is in the talent placement and onboarding world, and these are the same. So we just have to think outside the box, break the mold, brainstorm on where our costs and time is being spent and shift it to align with what the labor is asking for. Certainly, if you're watching this replay, we're going to have some materials for ammo to help you on this journey. You can feel free to send this video link as well to the powers that be. We want to help you. And if you're like, I don't have time for this, well, then you invite us in, because this is what we do. And me and Chad believe in this message so much that we wanted to put on this webinar and get this message out, because this is the future. This is the future of good employers being linked up with great talent and retaining them.
I know you're not lazy. Most people in burnout are high performers, those serving others before themselves. Don't discount this step today, the step in which you focus on your self-growth. Piecing together the puzzle is half the journey. Rediscovering energy through new actions and habits is the other. Do not underestimate the strength in your actions and the beast to do hard things that lies within you. Check out more burnout resources on my website to move from zombie mode back to liveliness. See you soon.